Think back to the last real raise you got. Not a cost of living bump, a genuine jump in pay. Now answer honestly, where is that money? Because for most people, the answer is that it is gone, absorbed, invisible, and life does not feel meaningfully different than it did before. That is not bad luck, and it is not weakness. It is a mechanism, and it has a shape. It is a ratchet, a device with angled one-way teeth that clicks forward easily and physically cannot click back. Your lifestyle is on one. Today I am going to show you the teeth, and once you have seen them, you cannot unsee them. Here is the plan. This episode sits on the stretch of the loop between earn and spend, the handoff, where new money becomes new normal before you have consciously decided anything. 6 shifts. 1. Lifestyle creep is a ratchet, and the one-way part is the whole story. 2. Every raise arrives pre-spent because you upgraded in your head weeks before it landed. 3. The upgrade becomes your invisible baseline in a matter of weeks. The joy fades and the payment does not. 4. Fixed commitments are the actual teeth, converting flexible income into obligation you cannot reverse. 5. This is the entire reason a $250,000 household can run out of money. And 6. The counter ratchet. You can only make good decisions about money you have not met yet. Then one thing to do before your next payday. The loop. Earn, spend, owe, stress, spend again. Today we are standing on the arrow between the first two, the handoff between earn and spend. And I want to be exact about what happens there, because most people picture a choice. You get more money, you decide what to do with it. That is not what happens. What actually happens is that the new income is absorbed, quietly and almost instantly, into a slightly larger version of your existing life. And then you look up 6 months later and cannot point at what changed. There was never a moment where you chose. The handoff is automatic, and the mechanism that makes it automatic only turns one way. 2 panels again. On the left, the math, solved, green check. And notice how confidently the left panel handles a raise. More income minus the same expenses equals more surplus. Obvious. Correct. Completely useless. Because on the right panel, the tangle, a raise is not an input to a sum. It is permission. It is the moment the thing you have been quietly wanting becomes reasonable. The spreadsheet says a raise increases your surplus. The mind says a raise increases what you are allowed. Those two beliefs produce wildly different outcomes from the exact same paycheck, and only one of them ever shows up in the plan. Shift 1. Lifestyle creep is not a slope. It is a ratchet, and the difference matters enormously. A slope is symmetrical. You can walk up it and you can walk back down. That is how most people imagine their spending. If things got tighter, they would simply spend less. A ratchet is not symmetrical. It is a wheel with angled teeth and a little catch that drops into place behind each one. Push it forward and it turns smoothly. Click, click, click. Try to turn it back and the catch locks. It does not resist a bit. It refuses. So watch what happens in real life. You upgrade the apartment and going forward was easy. One afternoon, one signature, genuinely nice. Now try going back. Downgrading is not just the mirror image of upgrading. It is a move, a lease, a conversation with everyone you know about why, a hit to how you see yourself, and a set of admissions you would rather not make. Same distance on the spreadsheet, wildly different cost in the world. That asymmetry is the ratchet. And it explains the thing that confuses people most about their own finances. Why every raise seems to vanish while their expenses have never once gone down. It is not that you lack discipline going down. It is that the mechanism is built to only run one direction, and you have been climbing it for years without noticing that there is no reverse. And notice what this does to your plans. Every financial plan you have ever made quietly assumed the slope, that if you needed to, you could just spend less. That assumption is doing enormous load-bearing work in your head, and it has never been tested. The one time it does get tested, it is usually in an emergency. which is the worst possible moment to discover that most of your spending was never optional in the first place. Shift 2. Every raise you get arrives pre-spent. Here is the part nobody admits. The spending does not start when the money lands. It starts the moment you find out it is coming, sometimes earlier in the interview, in the negotiation, in the daydream. You have already toured the better apartment in your head. You have already priced the car. You have already had the small private conversation with yourself where you decided you had earned something. So by the time the first larger paycheck actually arrives, the decision is not being made. It is being executed. And that is why the classic advice fails so reliably. When you get a raise, save the difference assumes there is a moment of choice at the arrival. There isn't. The choice happened weeks ago in your imagination, when the money was still abstract and there was nothing to stop it. There is also a second, quieter version of this, the pre-spend on credit. Because if the raise is coming and it is basically certain, then the purchase can happen now. That is exactly what a card or a payment plan is for. So people take on the obligation before the income arrives to cover it, which means the raise is not just spent, it is already owed. It went to work paying for something you bought in the future you were confident about. That is the Ratchet clicking a tooth forward before the money even exists. Shift 3. The upgrade becomes your invisible baseline in a matter of weeks, and this is the genuinely tragic part of the mechanism. When you upgrade something, the apartment, the car, the phone, the coffee, there is a real burst of pleasure. It is not fake. You enjoy it. And then, remarkably fast, it stops registering. You stop noticing the extra room. You stop feeling the nicer seats. Not because you are ungrateful, but because your brain is built to notice change and then stop noticing what stays the same. Once something is permanent, it becomes wallpaper. So here is the deal you unknowingly made. You traded a permanent payment for a temporary feeling. The joy had a shelf life of about 6 weeks. The payment has a shelf life of 5 years. And worse, the new level does not just become neutral, it becomes the floor. Going back to what delighted you 2 years ago now registers as a downgrade, as losing something, and losing something hurts far more than gaining it felt good. That is the trap in one sentence. The pleasure fades to zero and the baseline stays, so you need the next upgrade to feel anything at all. That is not consumerism as a moral failing. That is a normal nervous system meeting an unlimited supply of upgrades, and the Ratchet quietly logs every single one. Shift 4. Fixed commitments are the actual teeth of the Ratchet, and this is the part you have real control over. Not all spending is equal. If you spend more on food this month, that is reversible. Next month you can spend less, and nothing but your own habit stops you. But when you sign a lease, take a car payment, or start a plan with a monthly fee, you have not spent money. You have converted flexible income into a fixed obligation, and you have signed away your own future ability to say no. That is what a tooth is, a click that locks. Look at what the last 20 years have done to this. Almost everything that used to be a one-time purchase has been converted into a monthly payment. The phone, the software, the entertainment, the car, the fitness, the storage, the tools. Each one is small and each one is genuinely defensible in isolation. That is the design. Nobody would sign a single contract for the whole stack, but everybody signs 11 small ones. And the effect is that a huge share of income becomes untouchable before the month even starts. Then when something goes wrong, a bad month, a lost client, a hospital visit, there is nothing flexible left to squeeze. The obligations do not care. So the shortfall goes on to credit, and that is exactly how a household with a perfectly good income lands in debt without ever having been reckless once. And I want to be clear about what I am not saying. I am not telling you to cancel everything and live on nothing. Some of those commitments are genuinely worth it, and a life with no comforts in it is not a financial strategy, it is just a worse life that you will abandon by March. What I am saying is that a fixed obligation costs more than its price, because it also costs you flexibility. And flexibility is the thing that keeps a bad month from becoming a balance. price it accordingly, and sign fewer of them on purpose. Shift 5. This is the whole reason a household earning $250,000 a year can run out of money, and it is the same mechanism, not a different one. If you watched the Salary Ladder series, you already know the shape of this. As income climbs, the numbers get bigger, but the pattern is identical. Here is what high income actually does to the ratchet. It does not slow it. It accelerates it, because at higher incomes, every tooth is bigger and every upgrade is more available. Access improves faster than income does, and there is a social layer that is genuinely hard to resist. As you climb, the people around you change, and the new baseline of normal changes with them. The car in the driveway that would have looked extravagant 5 years ago now just looks like what people drive. Nobody is showing off. Everyone is simply matching the room they are standing in. Add one more thing, and it is the one that really does the damage. At high income, the buffer feels unnecessary. You can cover almost anything out of cash flow, so why hold reserves? Which means the high earner is often running with a thinner safety margin than someone earning a quarter as much, because the thing that made them feel safe was the income itself, and income is the one asset that can stop overnight. Bigger numbers, same loop. That is the whole lesson. And if you are nowhere near that income, do not skip this one. Watch it as a preview. The habits you build at your current number are the ones that will be waiting for you at the bigger one, fully grown. Nobody arrives at a high income and suddenly becomes a different person about money. They arrive as exactly who they already were, holding a larger paycheck and standing in front of a much bigger ratchet. Shift 6, and this is the fix. You can only make a good decision about money you have not met yet. Once money is in your account, it is yours, it is real, and it is already attached to something in your imagination. Trying to claw it back after that is fighting the ratchet with willpower, and you will lose, because you always lose that fight eventually. So do not fight it. Move the decision earlier, to the only point where it is easy, before the money exists. That is the counter-ratchet. When a raise is coming, you decide the split before the first larger paycheck arrives, a fixed share to the balance or to savings, automatically on the day it lands. Not, I will see what is left. Nothing is ever left. That is the entire finding of this episode. And the reason this works is not discipline. It is that money you have never experienced as available does not create a sense of loss when it goes somewhere else. You cannot miss a lifestyle you never had. The person who splits the raise before it lands has no feeling of sacrifice at all. They simply carried on living at the level they were already living at, which they were, by definition, fine with last month. The one making the sacrifice is the one who let it land, absorbed it, and then tried to take it back. And notice the second-order effect. You also just stopped adding teeth. Every raise you do not convert into a fixed commitment is a click the ratchet did not get. So here is the concrete move. 2 parts, and the first one you can do today whether or not a raise is coming. Part 1. Write down every fixed monthly obligation you currently have, not your spending, your obligations. The things that leave automatically whether or not you do anything and that you cannot stop this month by deciding to. Rent or mortgage, car, insurance, every subscription, every plan, every membership. Add them up and then compare that total to your take-home pay as a share. That percentage is how much of your ratchet is already locked, and most people are genuinely shocked by it. That number is the real constraint on your life, and almost nobody has ever seen it written down. Part 2. For the next time income goes up, a raise, a bonus, a new client, a debt that finishes paying off, which counts too. Before the money arrives, decide the split and automate it the same week. A simple, honest default is half. Half of the increase goes straight to the balance or to savings on the day it lands, and half genuinely improves your life. Not all of it to the debt. That is the version people abandon in month 3. Half. And then one rule on top. Do not spend the good half on a new fixed obligation. Spend it on something that ends. That is how you enjoy a raise without adding a tooth. So tell me in the comments, What percentage of your take-home is already locked into fixed obligations before the month starts? I think that number surprises almost everyone who works it out. This is education, not financial advice. Just an honest look at a mechanism. Next time we go after one specific number that was engineered, very deliberately, by people who are extremely good at this, to keep you exactly where you are. It is printed on your statement every single month, it looks like helpful information, and it is the most expensive number in personal finance. I will see you there.